broking firm. It's the most incredible story, and we were catching up just really briefly, Stuart, earlier, and I was amazed by the scale of what you've achieved just in the past few years. So Stuart, driving the mortgage revolution, and talking about your use of AI in that respect. Look, no need for me to say any more. Come on stage and tell that story, please.
Right, so thanks.
Stuart. Right, lovely. Thank you.
Afternoon, everyone. Just double checking that. Right, so I was asked to do a little talk about a founder's story, and I thought, well, how am I going to make that interesting and not particularly boring? So I'm not going to do a chronological blow-by-blow account of what went well and what went wrong. The what went wrong bit's probably more interesting than the what went well. What I did want to talk about is how we founded an AI business, and then talk about why right now it's probably never a better time to be an entrepreneur in the tech marketplace, particularly in the fintech marketplace. So I'm kind of taking a bit of liberty, bluntly, with the title. So just kind of bear with me a little bit around that. So the first thing I want to talk about is we set the business up about 7 years ago, and this is obviously people knew what AI was. It really wasn't as cool as it is today. I think in every single talk you've been in, probably in the first 30 seconds, someone goes, I do AI. Now, we were doing all this miles before it was really cool and popular to do that stuff, and we've been on a journey to do that. And we've made some really big decisions to do that. And I'll give you some results of how and why we do this. But first of all, why we set up two businesses. Straight away. So we want to, sort of innovate and deliver change in the mortgage marketplace. Why? That's the largest P&L for any major retail bank. It's the largest asset class, bluntly, in the world, and it's actually uninnovated in almost every single country globally as well. So it's kind of one of those last bastions of innovation. And why is that? And our thesis really was 7 years ago was, banks and lenders are really cool at mortgages, they really get it, but normally not great at tech, and they normally have loads of legacy stuff and problems. Tech are theoretically good at tech, but don't understand mortgages. And it's quite a complex problem. And it's quite a complex data problem, actually, in this process. So we set up two businesses immediately. And why we did this was because there was core themes. From day one, we said AI is our solution 7 years ago. Therefore, everything we have built has been built with one thought in mind. How do we deploy AI? And of course, everyone has been talking about agentic AI probably in the last couple of days. 2.5 years ago, we first had our first agentic AI pipeline working. We had our first digital worker 2.5 years ago in production in one of the most highly regulated environments in the world. Yeah, we stand out pretty much, I think, from any other fintech because we actually do it in production in a highly regulated world. And this is unlike lots of other people in this. And there's a real difference between doing and thinking you can do. I can't really overestimate. I'm going to give you a couple of examples in a minute. Anyway, so we set up our own regulated lender. We've done over $1 billion of lending in that. And we did that because, one, we knew the lenders would not use AI. No matter what we told them, whatever we built, whatever we proved them, their risk appetite, they wouldn't use AI. And that is still the case today. And the reason that is the case today is a data problem, and they do not have control of their data. Great statement is banks can't read bank statements. It's true. And that's it. So we own the data, we got the data, we could use the data, and it's our risk appetite, it's our innovation journey. We proved to that. Another great example of this, if you want to watch the press next week, we've been running a tokenization project for the last 12 months. And next week, we'll be announcing what we think will probably be a European first around the tokenization of the mortgage market. Again, all the lenders in the marketplace don't have the tech to do it, don't have the appetite to do it. This is our agenda, we drive it. That's why we're an operator. Yeah. Now, that's great. And then we have MQube, where I am today. I'm chief executive of two businesses. And then MQube is our growth engine. We license the tech to other people in the marketplace, banks, building societies, and therefore when they come along to us, they go, how does it work? And we go, look, we will show you it in live. Look at this AI in production. Look what the FCA said to us about the AI in production. And no one else in the marketplace, bluntly, can do that. So we have powered our way through that. Now, this has been a founder story. Now, that is not a decision we made lightly. Running two businesses, which are completely different, one regulated, one not, is not an easy thing. The bandwidth stretch, everything is just double, basically, through this process. And if you look at everybody that works in the business, they double hat across both businesses. We've got sort of AI data scientists running operations in the lender. We've got mortgage people advising how to build different tech. It's a complete sort of mishmash of this stuff. And one of the things that's been most successful for us is about the team we've built. Yeah. So I'm a relatively old ex-banker turned entrepreneur in his 50s. But if you look at the people that work directly for me, most of them were in their 20s, and most of them have never had another job anywhere else. So therefore, we have this massive ability to bring in domain knowledge from the mortgage market, but actually the people that genuinely run the business, who actually manage people and make decisions, are typically in their 20s, and are tech people with no domain or industry knowledge at the start. They are not that now. And this collegiate nature of this group has allowed us to drive an innovation agenda far, far more aggressively, far more compliantly in a very short period of time. Like, we are a startup, we don't have oodles of money, we've got to innovate quickly, we've got to be thinking about every pound we spend, it's got to be making a better product. And the thing we did right at the start, so this is the founder story bit, built two businesses. Why? Because we knew our customers would be slow to adopt, and they just wouldn't have the right risk appetite, and they bluntly still don't have the right risk appetite today to understand how to use AI or tokenization and things like these. And to deliver that, we had to build a team that didn't exist, basically. There was not a team in the marketplace that had domain, AI, and technology knowledge that we needed. So we recruited them in, and that's why it's such a young and diverse team. And it's probably the thing we're most proud of, actually. Of all the things we've built, and we have lots of firsts, and we are probably the most, we are an AI firm who is regulated and in production using AI, and I simply don't know any other firm in this country that has got that background or experience and knowledge, bluntly, through that process. But this is what it is. And now, but the problem is with this is it's incredibly difficult, because actually in that, as I say, there's a bandwidth stretch. You've got people double hatting, you've got people doing multiple jobs in this thing, and therefore people are really committed, working hard, long hours, and sacrifices have to be made for that, because there isn't just, as I say, oodles amount of money just to build these two businesses. Now, we did that 7 years ago, and why did we do that 7 years ago? As I say, risk appetite, which bluntly is still a problem today, but also data. We needed data 7 years ago to prove out the modeling of all the way through the process. And I'll talk a little bit about the business and what we do in 2 seconds. And that's a bit about why I think it's such a cool time now to be in tech through this process. But we had to take all that. So if you think about all the LLMs out there, everything that's public has been read by an LLM about 1,000 times over in about 1,000 different LLMs. It's all kind of done, and all we're seeing now is like Elon Musk buying Texas because he wants to build a bigger power plant, more energy and more. What's not been done is all your personal data, because who owns that? Who owns that? Well, you do, obviously, but also whoever you give it to, insurance companies, banks, and so forth. And what are they not great at? As I said, reading data. Can you believe it? So actually, all of that data that is really unique and actually genuinely rich in knowledge, clearly very personal, we need to be super protective about it, but how do we get that data to really generate new AI and really look at that? Again, we're an operator. So we've done thousands of mortgages, over $1 billion of lending, we're the largest non-bank lender in the UK now, and all these great things, but we've got all that data. And what that really means now is that we've been able to accelerate through the automation of the process and the use of AI in a highly transparent and highly auditable way. And again, it makes us unique within the marketplace. Again, not without its challenges for a busy day. So I want to talk a little bit about why now is good though. So when we set up the business within this kind of thought process, again, we are looking to say we need to innovate one of the largest financial markets globally that simply hasn't been done today, yeah? And that was our goal. What was innovation to us? It was simple. You buy a mortgage as fast and as simple as car insurance. You know, we do that today. If you buy a mortgage through Empowered, you can buy your mortgage, if you go via a broker, before anybody asks, as fast and as simply as buying car insurance. And we are the only people in the country who are able to do this in this process. So that's what we're doing. And so we've delivered our core objective. We've delivered the innovation, we've delivered the tech, we've proven the tech. It's unambiguous because we are a lender and we've done it. And now I look forward to how I see the business going forward, yeah? So this is the way the world thinks, by the way. This is the mortgage process, by the way. But if you want to read banking in business banking, if you want to read this in SME banking, any type of customer for a bank, everybody thinks like this. Left to right, linear process. It's a CRM system, it's a workflow system, it's Salesforce, it's Encino, it's all these other businesses do all this stuff, and it goes backwards and forwards. And bluntly, you can't automate it. Because what you've done is you've created a data nightmare. It's a dumb system from left to right, and you can't get control of your data. And when you look to do agentic AI, and I'll talk a little bit now about digital workers, in fact, I'll tell you a story now. So every mortgage we do, we use agentic AI to underwrite that mortgage today. And we are the only lender in the world, as far as I know, certainly in this country, who are able to use that. Now, we are not reliant on that. We still have people making decisions for very good reasons, because we've seen some absolutely brilliant results from that, and we have seen some absolutely horrendous results from that as well. So, this is the difference between knowing how to do something and thinking that you know how to do something. So one of the key things we learned about using agentic AI, and just to make sure that's clear, that is a digital worker physically doing a human being's job today. So if you measure a mortgage, you send in a pay slip and a bank statement, in every single case, there's a human being behind the scenes going, is that net pay the same as that on the bank statement? That happens all the time, yeah? It's a human being. What we have done is replace that person with a digital worker. That is agentic AI being used, and we use a multi-agent approach and all that type of stuff. I won't bore you with that. Now, what's happening here is when we get terrible results from that agentic AI, what's happening is they're going in a simple task, going, does the net pay on the pay slip equal the same amount on the bank statement? But if that bank statement isn't there, it makes it up. So if you bring it out of the context, you need a very tight context on it, and if data is missing, if you have an inconsistent or incomplete data set within that process, it starts wandering off into the wilderness and starts hallucinating and thinking about different things within this. This is an incredibly important thing to learn. So when you go back to this workflow system now, nobody has control of their data. So when they come to use agentic AI and digital workers, they're immediately limited in the way they can deploy it because they don't have control of the data until the very end of that journey. It simply is old thinking, and pretty much the entire insurance and banking systems and businesses are built on this thinking. This is why it's an incredibly interesting time to be a tech person, an incredibly interesting time to be an AI person. Because if you actually understand AI, if you actually understand how to deploy AI, what you realize actually is, I'm just going to slip the next slide, it's all about this kind of thinking around a driverless car. So at the moment, what's a driverless car? Hands on the wheel, eyes on the road, but pretty much everything else is done by the AI, yeah? That is live in the marketplace. Many of you have these cars. Some of them would have used them already. This is the same way tech is going to work now, yeah? So 90% of the job is going to be done by AI, but the human being is going to still be sitting there saying, actually, hands on the wheel, eyes on the road. Now, a silly example, and I sit in front of all the big banks in this country. I talk to them all about this type of stuff, and I have to explain to them, and here's my silly analogy for all those people who don't understand AI, and I say, I have a 2013 Honda at home. If I take my AI and plug that in tonight and download it, will that become driverless tomorrow? Well, of course it won't. And would I be trusting my children to sit in that car and have that journey go to school? Of course I wouldn't. So why do you think your current tech stack, this workflow, is going to be fit for purpose when you come into deploying agentic AI or any type of AI like this through this process? And the simple answer is the tech stacks are wrong for pretty much every bank in every country, and they are slowly, the penny is dropping. Now, why is this a cool time to be a founder? Why is this a cool time to be in tech? Why is this a cool time to be in AI? Because all of these businesses over the next 3, 4, 5 years, whatever you want to guess, are either going to augment their systems, they're going to throw them all away and start again, or they're going to try and start to blend them together in some other way. And this is a time when they're going to realize that actually that level of innovation and that level of development is best done not in a bank, not in a regulated entity, because you can't recruit the people, you can't give them the environment to do this. So if there's any budding entrepreneurs here, who's a question? Go on.
So, yeah, very interesting. So I also come from all the big banks, so banking background. So I have a question, right? So you clearly mentioned about the legacy platform, Salesforce, nCino, LoanIQ, and all. So is that your platform doesn't use the Salesforce, nCino, LoanIQ, and then unique like RESTful, like Django's APIs or all the stuff. So what is your take proposition? You build everything in house, or you also use the Salesforce, nCino, LoanIQ, and other stuff?
Well, yeah. So in fact, I will go back to that slide then, because that actually answers your question. Actually, so the question was, if you didn't hear, is what actually have we built, and how does it fix this kind of workflow problem? So basically, what we have is, if you imagine the future, what is a good customer experience? It's self-serve. Yeah, I want to do this instantly. I want everything done in 15 minutes, and I want to do it myself, and I don't want to have to wait. And what you do is you use agentic AI to fill in the gaps where human beings used to do that, to create a self-serve functionality. And what you mean is you digitize all your data, make it all machine readable instantly. So to give you an example, you upload a bank statement to our system. Within a second, it'll have read the bank statement, underwritten the bank statement, checked it for fraud, realized there's 3 things on there we don't know. And in the journey, we ask you the questions, what is this transaction? Instantly through that process. Now, normally what happens in a workflow, gets to the end, they realize they don't know what it is, phone you up, send you an email, and you just go around this thing. So what we have, to answer your question, is we have built a platform that is a huge data collection engine, yeah? And what we do is we collect all this data, whether it's APIs, documents, manual entry, and then we use AI to collate and classify all that stuff, and then actually to start interpreting it as well. And what we then do is we deploy it to the customer or the broker to allow them to self-serve themselves all the way through that journey without needing internal operators. And so what we would be going into, if it's out Salesforce, they can take part of our technology and plug it in to automate it, or they can take it out and put the whole thing in. So it depends on the journey of the bank or the insurance company, what they want to do, but they could do that both ways with us. And there are different benefits, pros and cons within that. Because,
so
yeah.
Do you have your origination platform, or you just give the APIs to bank and institute to come?
We do a mixture is the answer, and it depends, because what we find is every bank is different and every bank is on a different journey. So therefore, you can't just have one thing. So some of the times they'll just come into an API and be able to transact, but then you have to do a lot of internal dev work. Most of the time we find that's not enough for them. We have to step in and do some more actual dev work for them because they can't consume the data. The biggest problem banks have at the moment is that we take data, we take far more data than banks. So we typically, a mortgage application takes 15 minutes. We typically take 20,000 data points, and we make all those data points machine readable in a 15-minute window. I mean, for a bank, that's kind of just beyond even thought or ability at the moment. So when you tell them, you've got to take all this data and look at it real time, it kind of goes, how? So there's a lot of working with the bigger banks. The smaller building societies and banks, they just look at this problem and just go, we'll just take everything. We know it works because Empowered already does it, so we're just going to take the whole thing and plug it in. And we did this with Nottingham Building Society. We're doing it with Monmouthshire Building Society at the moment.
Right now, you are a platform as banking as a services, is it? Or you have like a bank or like a mortgage, like a National Building Society or lawyers, they provide the mortgage. So are you a mortgage provider or just a platform aggregator that the insurer can use and they can do that? So are you holding the fund to provide the mortgage, or are you just a platform that provide the mortgage services?
So Empowered Mortgages is a lender in its own right, so we do everything. MQube sells 2 products in a very high level. Right. One is the whole platform, and the other one is called a Cube, which is kind of like an access to an API to certain functionality, albeit it's very bespokely done, is the answer to that. So that is the product set we have within those businesses.
Can I ask one question? Why do you have it 2 different? Because if you, as a bank, provider, right? So you can be a market leader, and why do you also provide the platform that other can use, and you can lose your market share, you can lose your customer, right? So what is the strategy behind that too, right? Because whether you want to make a risk-free, right, can get some profit from the one business and invest to other business, or what is the exact propositions?
That's a very big question. The question is what's our strategy? Why are we selling the tech that completely competes with our operator? And the answer to the question is because actually, if you look at the target addressable market for software, it's massive. If you wanted to target for a business lender, it's quite small. The reality is though, so we think about Empowered as an R&D hub, as like an incubator. The biggest, most expensive POC that we can imagine, basically, through that process. And what that allows us to do is that allows us to actually do. We know how it works. We know why it doesn't work. So then when people license it to us, but the engine, where we'll get enterprise value from, predominantly will be in MQube, and over the long term. So we grow MQube through. So like, for instance, in Empowered Mortgages, it's just mortgages, but we're already doing our first business banking POC, but we're not going to become a business bank. And I don't need to be, because I've already proven how we deploy AI and how we deploy data capture and all that stuff within a highly regulated environment in that space. So, right, I don't know where I am now. There's some stats here. I'm not going to worry about those. I'm going to finish up. I have 1 more minute. I'm going to finish up on this point. So right now is a time when there'll be loads of people talking about AI, and some will go, oh, we'll never take our jobs. Other people, doomsayers, we're all doomed, and all this type of stuff. It's clearly the answer will be somewhere in the middle. AI absolutely is going to radically change financial services. There's no doubt about that. If you're in financial services, almost certainly your job is automatable today. You just don't know it yet. And the real problem isn't the AI. It will be the car isn't built yet. The software is built. The software is capable of doing it, but the banks do not have, in my silly analogy, the ecosystem to control the data and to control the AI. So it's a much bigger problem that needs to be fixed now, but it's inevitable that it will be fixed. So therefore, as a founder, and I think maybe there might be founders here, there might be other tech people here, that's great. This is a fabulous time to be there, whether you want to be in AI or whether you want to be a tech provider within this world, because the transformational change that's coming, the transformational change that's inevitable coming through this process is just going to happen right now. We thought 7 years ago was a good time. It's demonstratively better now, demonstratively better through that process. Right, I think I have got 19 seconds left. So unless anybody's got a question.
Let's see the stats.
Oh, you want to see the stats? Sure. Okay, I'm going to take okay, we'll do this very, very quickly. So how long does it normally take a mortgage? It takes 14 to 19 days to get a mortgage if you go to pretty much anywhere. But I'll point out one stat, 15 minutes, 37 seconds. That is somebody coming on board, starting an application, first keystroke, all the way through to their full contractual offer. As simple as car insurance, yeah? That is what we have done through this process. Another great, so if you come package cases, 97% of our cases are done in a day through all this process. It's demonstratively different to most lenders in the marketplace. So there's the stats. There we go. I won't labour that point.
We haven't got time, but does anybody else want to ask a question before we wrap up? A long question and a short answer, Stuart. This is so unfair. You started off saying with the proposition that big lenders are still not interested in AI. I guess, of course, they are to some extent. And I wonder if that comes down to data. Did you start with a totally clean data spreadsheet and build it, whereas the legacy banks are sort of wading through a quagmire of data? Is that the key to it?
Yeah, by the way, the banks are massively interested in AI.
Yeah.
They just don't know how to use it.
Yep.
We had a greenfield site, but more importantly than that, when we built it for AI, which means transparency, auditability, and that means how you actually deploy and read and store data. Yeah. It's a far bigger problem.
Yeah, which is why you're regulated and trusted to do the job you do.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's absolutely an amazing story, Stuart. Thank you so very much indeed.
Great.
It's been fascinating. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Ladies and gentlemen, Stuart Cheetham.